Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, I'm slightly unusual in that my parents went to South America after the... I'm not that old, but it sounds like I am. But at the end of the Second World War, my mother was about 19. My father was about 25. But they decided England was so boring and there was still rationing. It wasn't much fun. And people forget how poor everyone was. So that they thought there was a better life in other places. So they went to Egypt. And then they went to Iraq and Canada and America. But they ended up in South America in a place called Guyana, where I was born in Georgetown, Guyana. So I'm an unusual generation, a dying out generation. But there were quite a lot of people like me who are British, but in fact kind of grew up, in different parts of the world. So we have British status, and we seem British, but there's a part of us that's actually quite attached to where we grew up.
Why did you start using video?
Well, it's difficult to describe, but when one's young, one just has a kind of urge about these things. And I was on a sculpture course at St Martin's, which is in London, and it was okay. It was a conceptual course, and as we all know about conceptual art, it means there's not a lot to do. One can sit around and be thanked for thinking and things like this. But this course I was on was called Sculpture A, and it was where Richard Long went and Gilbert and George. So it was quite a long tradition of British conceptual art had started there. But I found that in some ways it seemed to be a little bit inhibiting, and it seemed to be a little bit joyless, so that I knew there was something a bit wrong. And also the other thing is sculpture, you need a lot of space. You need a garage, because you don't want to throw your work away, do you? So the trouble is I was making photographic pieces, but they were all difficult to store. And in fact, it was only about 10 years ago that I'd kept a few of them with me, but I finally threw those in a skip. But it is very difficult if you're a sculpturer to kind of find what you're going to do with your stuff, unless one, of course, sells it all. But so at the time I was thinking, oh, this is hard work. But at the Slade, I did an MA at the Slade, and they'd recently bought some video equipment. But the minute I saw them unpacking this equipment, I sensed that somehow this was my future.
How long have you been using video?
Well, a lot. It's about 25 years, yeah. My first stuff was about 1983, presumably before you were born, I imagine. But so, yeah, no, and it was all very much more difficult then and much more unreliable. But it was much better than what the previous generation had had. So it's very much like that with technology. It gets basically better and better. So today, the kind of camera we're being filmed with is just amazing compared to the sort of stuff I was given. The early kind of video cameras actually made you feel sick. When you watch the material, it had sort of roll bars, and a little bit like the effect of watching, I don't know if it affects you, but 3D films have that effect on me, that they are, near the end you feel a little bit sick, don't you? They haven't quite got that right. So that reminds me of early video, which was all a little bit... The image was always soft focus, so the eyes were straining to kind of watch it, and it was a little bit jumpy with strange roll bars and things like that. So I think that the medium wasn't very attractive, but fortunately by the time I started making it, it evolved so that it was beginning to look quite good, and it wasn't too bad.
Have you ever used any other media apart from sculpture and video?
I've taken photographs and things. Yeah, I mean, I like... but no, it's mostly been video. I've mostly been attracted to the moving image. There are various reasons for that. I think it's quintessentially the modern medium. I mean, if you think about images and how they dominate our lives, most of it is moving images now. You think about how many hours people watch television. You can walk down a street, late at night, and virtually every house is kind of watching TV, So it really dominates us. So it's not surprising that an artist would want to make an alternative vision or to somehow compete, because there are other aspects as well. The creation of celebrities very much depends on the moving image, and Hollywood and those kind of things. So it's definitely, in terms of our society, a central thing, moving image. So as an artist, I think I've always been interested in somehow manipulating that, sending it in a different direction and making it more artistic, yeah.
How have you incorporated the space here at DCA into your work?
Have I incorporated it? Well, one of the nice things about being a video artist is it's actually quite easy to put on a show because whereas sculptors and painters spend hours messing around moving things just to decide where it should go, actually putting on a video show, it takes you about 15 minutes. You just work out which wall you want to show one of your pieces on. So it hasn't been too trying. However, the work of actually setting up the speakers and projectors and all these things in this room is quite difficult, and I haven't had to do that, fortunately.
How has the change in technology affected the way you work?
Well, it's just much more easy. The technology is cheaper, and one of the great problems when I was young was getting one's hands on the stuff. It was very expensive, and people who had it didn't like sharing it. They certainly didn't like the idea of a young person on it for free, because I knew many people who had the stuff, but they didn't seem to have the heart to just let me have it. And in fact, I was signing on at one point and saving up my benefit to pay to go into edit suites, which was a bit absurd at the time and very irritating, because I was short of money anyway. But it seems now you wouldn't need to do that because everything is bedroomable. You know, a lot of these processes, if you can shell out and get one decent computer, you can do sound and image, titles. You can do the lot, and you really don't need anyone else. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean artists make better work, actually. It's an interesting debate. I mean, I personally think, if you like, the growth of mediocrity occurs as technology improves, because much more people have a go. You know, it would be like the same with songwriting or pop songwriting. There's probably much more people having a go now, because you can sound like a group in your bedroom, and so why not? But the actual incidence of, if you like, breakthroughs or really genuinely good work, it remains much the same. So technology may improve and make life easier for artists, but I think the amount of good work or original work seems to stay roughly the same.
Is it a good experience sharing the space with an artist so similar to yourself?
I don't know that his work is that similar, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's good for the audience to see different kinds of artists in the same thing. I mean, if it was an exhibition of flower arranging, I'd probably be just as happy. But his work, you know, is different. And interestingly, we both have a similar experience in that when I was a younger artist, it was difficult to support myself. So I did things like stage shows, exactly the sort of thing he's doing for rock bands. One of my pieces, 101 Colours Andy Never Thought Of, was bought by U2 for their pop tour some years ago. And I did the stage work for Robert Plant, even when I knew he was a dinosaur, but never mind. And The Who, so I did these kind of things to support myself. And I did some pop videos too, rather like him, yeah. So we do share that. But I don't know a lot of his stuff. I'm as excited as you.